Hello, I'm Lara Kulcharsan and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are returning home in Northern Gaza. But with some reports saying 80% of Northern Gaza is now in ruins, we can only imagine what kind of home they're returning to. These have been the scenes along the coast road, a long trail of people on the move. Huge crowds have been waiting in the open in central Gaza for the past few days. Most of them had been ordered to leave Northern Gaza in the early days of the war after the Israeli army designated the area a military zone. With thousands of Palestinians on the trek home, US President Donald Trump said he wants to, quote, clean out Gaza. But what does that exactly mean? He suggested Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab nations take in Palestinians for what could be temporary or long-term housing. Many countries have rejected this plan, including Egypt and the Arab League, branding it as ethnic cleansing.
The whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess. It's a real mess.
So you'd like Jordan to house people from
I'd
Gaza?
like him to take people. I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General al-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's over the centuries that's had many, many conflicts that site. And I don't know, something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished, and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace for a change.
Temporarily, or would they
It could be either. It could be temporarily, could be long-term.
Gaza has over 2 million people, but will Palestinians move out of Gaza like that? No, they're going to resist. And if there's resistance, there's going to be more military action and an excuse for Benjamin Netanyahu to continue on what he's already been doing for 15 months. This is a trick. They're going to try and keep Gaza. They're going to build a nice, beautiful area and just hand it right over to Benjamin Netanyahu. This is absolutely ridiculous, and we need to stand even stronger with the Pali and push hard back against this.
Meanwhile, the US says the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah has now been extended until February the 18th. The deal, which was brokered in November, ended months of fighting between Israel and the Lebanese group. On Sunday, Israeli forces killed 22 people and wounded 124 others as the deadline for their withdrawal passed. Thousands of people defied military orders while attempting to return to home. This weekend, videos of migrants being deported from the US on military aircraft went viral, sparking a diplomatic standoff between the United States and Mexico and Colombia.
At a U.S. Army airfield in El Paso, exclusive video obtained by CBS News shows shackled detainees boarding a military cargo plane.
This was after Mexico refused a request for a U.S. plane to land in Mexico with illegal immigrants. I guess Donald Trump is trying to send a message. In fact, his press secretary literally said President Trump is sending a strong and clear message to the entire world. If you illegally enter the United States of America, you will face severe consequences.
Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the Mexican president, recently refused an entire deportation flight from the United States. This is not a surprise to me that she did this, because she has said that she opposes Cheeto taking unilateral action to implement restrictive immigration standards, including the reinstatement of a Remain in Mexico policy that forces migrants to stay in that country while they wait adjudication of asylum claims. Flying deportees into a foreign country requires the cooperation of the nation's government, and Mexico declined to give consent. And guess what? She isn't the only one, because now Gustavo Petro, who is the president of Colombia, has followed suit, and he actually tweeted this: U.S. cannot treat Colombian migrants as criminals. I deny the entry of American planes carrying Colombian migrants into our territory. The United States must establish a protocol for the dignified treatment of migrants before we receive them. So now it looks like Colombia and Mexico are standing on business, and they're like, hey, if you want to get this done, you need to sit down and discuss a plan, because if not, it's not happening.
In response, President Donald Trump announced emergency measures on his Truth Social account.
Emergency 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States. In 1 week, the 25% tariffs will be raised to 50%. A travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and all allies and supporters. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of the criminals they forced into the United States.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro fired back, threatening his 25% tariffs on US goods and accusing Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio of disrespecting Colombia. The standoff quickly escalated, but by Sunday evening, both nations had agreed. US military planes will now be permitted to deport Colombian nationals back to the country without restrictions. White House confirmed that tariffs and sanctions would not be implemented as long as Colombia upholds the agreement. As the US tightens its immigration policies, undocumented communities are finding support through simple but powerful tools designed to assert their legal rights. Migrant advocates are prioritizing those most vulnerable, distributing information cards, commonly known as red cards. These cards, printed in multiple languages, offer concise instructions on how individuals can safeguard their rights, including the right to remain silent and the right to deny entry to their homes without a judicial warrant. Advocates stress that individuals should avoid answering questions or signing documents and instead rely on the cards to communicate their legal stance. Social media is amplifying the effort, with activists sharing videos of red cards being prepared and distributed. Meta has announced plans to spend as much as $65 billion to expand its AI infrastructure in 2025. CEO Mark Zuckerberg says he aims to bolster the company's position against rivals OpenAI and Google. As part of the investment, Meta will ramp up hiring for artificial intelligence models. It will also build a more than 2-gigawatt data center that will be large enough to cover a significant part of Manhattan. Big tech firms have been investing tens of billions of dollars to develop AI infrastructure after the success of OpenAI's ChatGPT. Meta's announcement comes just days after President Donald Trump announced that OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle will form a venture called Stargate and invest $500 billion in AI infrastructure across the US. Netflix is raising prices in the US, Canada, Argentina, and Portugal after gaining nearly 19 million new subscribers in late 2024. The surge was driven by the return of Squid Game and high-profile sports events like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Netflix says the changes reflect its strong performance and growing content library. The streamer now has over 300 million subscribers globally, but users are not happy about the latest price hike.
As it stands right now, you're probably paying $19.99 for Netflix. And let's get real, we never can find anything good to watch on that platform. Now they want to raise it to $24.99 a month for the premium subscription. I think it's funny when they have little to nothing to offer, like this new movie that they just dropped, which was absolutely awful. From the fighting, obviously the acting is fine, but the story was terrible. They keep on putting out bad content and they want to charge us more for it. I personally will be canceling my subscription to Netflix.
Especially for people like me who live in Canada and we don't even get half of what the Americans are getting. You're raising subscription fees, but you're not raising the quality and the amount of shows and movies that are on Netflix. But we're getting our prices raised? For what, Netflix?
Over the years, I've spent hours upon hours, and I've seen that "Are you still watching?" pop up countless times. But with this price hike, finally going to end my toxic relationship with Netflix.
The nominees for the 97th Academy Awards were announced last week, celebrating the highest achievements in film. While this year's list features a diverse slate of films and performances, a few notable names and projects have been left off the ballot. And as expected, social media erupted.
Starting off with an absolute show here. We got Best Director, 5 of the 6, pretty good, but where the is Denis Villeneuve? It should be a crime, it should be an absolute crime that Emilia Perez is here and Dune 2 is not. I can't believe Challengers isn't here. Get Emilia Perez out, put Challengers in, not a bad list.
Emilia Perez was nominated for the most Oscars with 13 noms, but unfortunately Selena Gomez was not one of them. Angelina Jolie was recently nominated for a Golden Globe for Maria, but she was snubbed for the Oscars. Same goes for Nicole Kidman for her role in Baby Girl. And this one is shocking to me. The Substance was actually nominated for Best Picture, which is huge because this is a horror film. And Demi Moore recently won the Golden Globe for her role, but her counterpart, Margaret Qualley, was not even nominated for an Oscar. Pamela Anderson was recently nominated for a Golden Globe for The Last Showgirl, but she did not make it to the Oscar nominations list. The Challenger soundtrack was surprisingly not nominated for Best Score, which is kind of crazy because this one stuck with me the most after Wicked.
Nearly 1 billion people celebrate Chinese New Year globally, which marks the first new moon of the Chinese calendar. It is the most important holiday in many Asian cultures and lasts for 15 days. This year, it begins on January 29. But many people are confused about the name, with some calling it the Lunar New Year, which is not entirely accurate. Here's why.
If you celebrate a New Year on January 29th in 2025, then you should call it Chinese New Year. Calling it Lunar New Year is incorrect because the lunar calendar used by Muslims is based on the cycles of the moon. New Year in 2025 is expected to fall on June 27th, according to the lunar calendar. In contrast, the 4,000-year-old Chinese calendar is lunisolar, which blends lunar, solar, and other cycles for social and agricultural purposes. Chinese months follow the phases of the moon, and 24 solar terms, aka Qijie in Mandarin, based on the sun's position in the zodiac and follows the seasons of the solar year, were created by farmers in ancient China to assist them in determining when it was the best to plant and harvest crops. The Purple Mountain Observatory, located in Nanjing, China, is responsible for calculating the position of the sun and the moon and analyze the solar term intersection times based on the standard time of 120 degrees east longitude, aka Beijing time. It's important to know that Chinese in Chinese New Year doesn't refer to ethnicity or nationality, rather the acknowledgement of its Chinese roots.
The Chinese New Year features a different animal each year from the Chinese zodiac's 12-year cycle. 2025 is the year of the snake. Despite the changing zodiac animals, one tradition remains constant: the giving of red envelopes or hongbao. These envelopes filled with money symbolize good wishes and luck for the new year. But the amount inside requires careful consideration.
If you're a parent, give $20 or up to the amount that you're happy to give.
Red envelopes should always be given out in pairs, because one represents you and the other represents your spouse. Only give one red packet if you're widowed or divorced.
If you're not married, you're not required to give out red envelopes. But if you started making money, you can give one envelope to your elders to show appreciation.
To your elders, especially your parents and grandparents, always give $100 to $300.
To the younger generations without income, especially the ones still at school, you can give $10 to $30.
To your employees, give $20 to $200 on the last working day before the Chinese New Year holiday. Make sure the bills you put in the red envelopes are brand new. Giving dirty or wrinkled bills is in bad taste.
Avoid putting coins, unless they're made with chocolate, because traditionally, coins are being used by Taoist priests to fight demons.
Prepare red envelopes in advance and always carry some red envelopes with you.
And to show respect, always receive your red envelopes with both hands and say an auspicious phrase such as 恭喜发财.
And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.